A quiet fur ball sits with crumbs around its mouth. The child says his monster friend left the village suddenly to go back home. He claims the headman told him that he could go home when he grew up too. The little orc child pouts, but I don't know where my home is. You ask the old man if he knows anything about the dragon. No, sir, he answers. All I know is that it brings more trouble to this already troubled world. But our headman is a wise and worldly man. He might know something, he remarks, pointing at a house not far away. The little goblin sulks as he gazes upon the withering flowers he tried so desperately to take care of. He looks at you with tears in his eyes, silently begging you for help. You pour the salve onto the flowers, and they stand up tall. The goblin cries out in happiness and thanks you for your help. He then holds something out to you. The goblin stares lovingly at the beautiful flowers and gobbles them up. Healthy flowers are the tastiest, he proclaims in glee. Did he grow those flowers just to eat them? A young boy wanders up to your group in wide-eyed wonder. You surmise his curiosity stems from the lack of travelers visiting the village. You realize you are right when he assails you with questions about your origins and adventures. The Inquisition leaves you exhausted. However, does your mouth become so filthy, Mr. Flobby? Sighs the girl as she wipes the slime clean. Clearly embarrassed, Mr. Flobby murmurs, "That's not my mouth." The little orc child is engrossed in a fairy tale. The title reads, "The Legend of the Dragon." You take a peek into the picture book and come across a passage that piques your interest. To where, you wonder, then recall that this is merely a fairy tale. The village headman is a renowned gourmet, and rumor has it he only dines on the finest foods. The man says he wishes he too could have such a lavish meal just once in his life, his deep desire for delicacies only growing with time. Wow, a new friend, and so big too, the furball exclaims in glee as it rushes over to Mar. Mar stares off into the distance as the furball snuggles up to his leg. For some reason, Riddis joins in on the cuddling. Lately, a suspicious man cloaked in black has been seen wandering about the village outskirts. The old woman looks at Melanie and remarks that he was dressed just like her. Any travelers with magical little critters can stay for free. It appears the headman's long-standing pronouncement on the welcoming of all magical creatures also applies to you and your party. Travelers, you hear a voice call from somewhere. Down here, at thy feet, you look down to see a small clump of fur by your boots. The clump of fur speaks. I am Lappy, and I should like to journey forth with thee. Lappy the furball looks at you with amiable expectations. Of course, the more the merrier, you exclaim, pumping your fist energetically into the air. But Melanie coldly interjects, no, I can't trust monsters. Thoroughly rejected by Melanie, Lappy bursts into tears. Lappy says he has no friends because of his aged face and speech. All alone, he decided to leave the village on a journey. Your party is silenced by the crying child with the face of a grown man. You tell Melanie to be nice and quip that both she and Lappy could use a friend. Exhausted from arguing with you, Melanie half-heartedly agrees. Fine, we can be friends. However, she says that they are on a dangerous journey to defeat the dragon. As such, they cannot take a child with them. Lappy leaps up and hugs her in his excitement, exclaiming, "Thou hast made me so happy." Till next time, Melanie says, peeling Lappy off of her and placing him on the ground. Though she thought all monsters to be evil, Melanie feels that the ones here are different. Finally, a friend. You bow, but before you can speak, the man suddenly introduces himself as the village headman. He laughs, then shamelessly praises his own village as being wondrous and peaceful. "And who are you?" he asks. After explaining that you are on a quest to defeat the dragon, the headman invites you to rest your feet a bit in his village. He says that he had heard rumors of the dragon when he traveled the world. You must be tired from your journey. Have a seat. I will have my chef prepare a feast, the headman says, then claps his hands twice to summon a stewardess. Extravagant dishes that you have never seen before are placed on the table before you. each one looking more delicious than the last. "You're drooling," Melanie scowls. You hadn't even noticed. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, then gasp as you turn to Mar. Perhaps in an attempt to hold himself back, Mar is gnawing on the table corner. There, we'll eat soon," you reassure Mar while gently stroking his head. The doors fly open in the next instant, and a girl runs in. With tears in her eyes, she tells you that her dear companion, Mr. Flobby the Slime, is missing. The headman's eyes go wide in surprise. "We must find that slime right away," he says anxiously. "You are starving, but it doesn't look like you'll be able to partake of the feast before you because of Mr. Flobby's disappearance." "We will find your slime, and then we feast," you add quietly. Melanie reminds you that you are here to get clues about the dragon from the headman. What's the difference? Literally everything. Hunger taking its toll, you two begin to argue. "Brave heroes," the headman interjects, then bows his head. "Would you please find her slime?" It appears the story has hit a standstill until you find the missing Mr. Flobby. You need to hear the whole story from the young girl. The girl sobs, wailing about the missing Mr. Flobby. Melanie places her hand atop the girl's head and promises that your party will find her companion. The girl then hands something to Melanie. It looks like the muddy handkerchief she used to wipe Mr. Flobby. She asks Melanie to wipe Mr. Flobby with it after you find him. The girl claims to have searched the village but cannot find her friend anywhere. Regardless, looking aimlessly outside the village would be a waste of time. You decide to collect more information in the village. Melanie's friend Lappy is here. Lappy cuddles up to Melanie. Despite her hatred of monsters, Melanie doesn't seem to mind. It seems like the girl who left the headman's house ran away in tears. The elderly man says she cannot have gone far. The goblin dutifully tends his flower bed, eagerly anticipating the day they bloom. She says she saw a suspicious man in black with a slime outside the village not long ago. She claims they went northwest together. Did that man take Mr. Flobby? You resolve to leave the village in search of the pair. Your footing is obscured in the dimness of the shrine. You should probably proceed with caution. I think you made the right choice. You take a good look at the floor and see it lined in trails of viscous liquid. No doubt a slime or 200 have passed through here. It looks like poor Mr. Flobby is being held captive by the mystery man. Hand over that slime, you shout to the man in the dark. You speak as if I kidnapped him, he remarks, curtly turning to face you. When your eyes finally adjust to the surrounding darkness, you realize the man's clothes look eerily similar to Melanie's. Melanie's mouth falls open in surprise. It seems the man has noticed Melanie as well. It looks like the two know each other. The man says that he and Melanie came from the same village, where this was their native dress. The man's revelation makes you realize that you know almost nothing about Melanie's past. You ask her if he is a childhood friend, but she holds her tongue. Then the man speaks. With forbidden magic, our clan has ensured the dragon, he begins, when Melanie cuts in. She rattles on about the man, telling you that he is Vince, a lunatic obsessed with the dragon. Vince resentfully claims that he is searching for the noble dragon to protect it. You ran away from home with your tail between your legs, he ridicules. Enraged, Melanie lunges at Vince. You have so many questions, but realize that the most pressing matter is getting Mr. Flobby back. So you ready for battle? Careful, he won't go down easy. During the fight, Vince asks, Do you know the truth about that village? The headman may look like a nice old man, but he keeps those little monsters around too. He begins, but before he can finish, Winifred, Hedwin, and Berwin of the Ivory Order appear. The three brush you aside, fixing their attention on Vince. "So you are the one who disturbs the peace," they exclaim, then charge at him. The Ivory Order and that false justice they serve are the true evil here, he retaliates, fighting back. Seeing the two parties occupied with each other, you realize this is your chance to grab Mr. Flobby. Perhaps wary of humans, Mr. Flobby dashes out when you draw near. Vince is on equal footing with the three from the Order. You realize then that he wasn't fighting in earnest against you earlier. Engrossed in their battle, the combatants pay you no mind. When you reach out to grab Mr. Flobby, he suddenly attacks. Lower Mr. Flobby's stamina to calm him down. Exhausted from the fight, the raging Mr. Flobby finally stops attacking. But it seems he hasn't yet come to his senses. He glares warily at your party. Find something to help return Mr. Flobby to normal. You wipe Mr. Flobby's mouth with the handkerchief you received from the girl. Then you hear a quiet voice speak. "That's not my mouth," Mr. Flobby murmurs bashfully. It looks like the girl's familiar scent on the handkerchief returned him to normal. Having regained his senses, Mr. Flobby heads back to the village. You place the increasingly sticky handkerchief in your bag. The Ivory Order and Vince are still fighting inside. It's probably best not to enter now. approaches and tells you that Mr. Flobby has returned. The girl is ecstatic that Mr. Flobby is finally back home. "I'm happy for you," Melanie says with a smile as she returns the handkerchief. The girl bows her head and thanks you deeply. Mr. Flobby looks as slimy as ever. You just hope it's a happy slime. "The headman wants us to bring Mr. Flobby to him. Would you mind?" you ask. "Of course not, but bring him back soon," she answers with a bright smile. "I am so happy to see you safe and sound," the headman exclaims, giving Mr. Flobby a hug. You explain everything that happened, including the incident with Vince and the Ivory Order. He expresses his relief that the Order will be taking care of the criminal. He then thanks you for your hard work and instructs his stewardess to prepare dinner for your party. You can feel your collective mouths watering at the sight of the lavish meal before you. You, Mar, and Ridis immediately dig in. You aren't sure where you find a moment to breathe among all the feasting. "Please, eat to your heart's content," the headman insists with a smile. Once your belly is full, you realize that Mr. Flobby is gone. And then... "Room for dessert?" the headman asks, offering you a plate of slimy jelly. You feel your stomach churning at the very sight of it. The color strikes you as familiar, and the stickiness sends a shiver down your spine. Is this Mr. Flobby?" you ask the headman, your voice trembling in disbelief. The headman looks at you with a plain expression, one that holds no malice. "Is that a problem?" he questions back. "This dish is a masterpiece," he remarks with a light-hearted chuckle as he gazes at the jelly. "And I have you brave heroes to thank for it. Had you not brought that slime back, we would not be able to enjoy this exquisite dessert." "Are you full?" he asks, seemingly concerned at your silence. "It would be a shame to let something so splendid go to waste." You move to leave, but the headman stops. "I try to get my meat while it's still young and tender, but at least your pet is very plump," he remarks, licking his lips. He points at Mar and asks, "Would you consider leaving that creature here with me?" "Never," you refuse flatly, not bothering to hide your discomfort. "Think about it," he entreats. And then you grab the headman by his lapels, hands trembling in fury. Let's do this. You pummel the headman with all your might. Curled up on the ground, the headman groans in pain, but insists that monsters were meant to be eaten. You hug Mar tightly, reassuring him that you will not hand him over to anyone. Mar looks at you with his round eyes and mews softly. You meet eyes with the rest of your party and reach a tacit agreement. Together, you all stand and leave. As you are about to leave the headman's house, though, the old man suddenly charges at you from behind. But Mar, the keener of you two, is quick to block his path. With a crash, Mar and the headman tumble to the ground. From the headman's hand falls a small blade. It clatters to the ground, covered in blood. You take the injured Mar to an inn where you can watch over him. You gaze at the unconscious Mar with concern. Despite the shallow wound, no amount of medicine seems to rouse Mar from the bed. I heard that my friends were in danger, so I came as quickly as I could, Lappy says. As he reaches Mar's bedside, he leans over and licks his wound. This is what-you-call-it extract, he shouts. He explains that it is a poison extracted from a certain monster. If it enters the body, it drastically reduces one's stamina. Hearing those words, you realize the headman's blade must have been coated in this poison. Mar's condition starts to make sense. Isn't there anything we can do? Melanie asks. Lappy's eyes widen in realization before he places his mouth over Mar's wound and begins sucking. He then puts the what-you-call-it extract into a bottle and hands it to you. Lappy says that if you follow the road south of the village, you will reach Shoreland. He tells you to give the extract to the famous nutritionist there. You try asking Lappy to go in your stead. Since you already know the particulars, why don't you go? I would love to go, but alas, I am a monster, and still a child, he answers. Thus venturing to other towns would be perilous. You raise an eyebrow, recalling someone who had said they were ready to leave the village on a journey. You decide to go, knowing that Mar's health is your top priority. But this is strange. The extract comes from a monster, so it should have no effect on one, Lappy remarks with a curious tilt of his head. I thought a beast of that size would eat us out of house and home, she remarks, no doubt talking about Mar. He urges you to hurry on to Shoreland and find the nutritionist.